I'm thinking sometimes, like you said, what am I thinking as a parent? Is the school normally have a resource officer, normally have a security guard? Or that's one or two people. What if they get?
That's what I'm looking.
What if they get past those guys?
Right.
And if young ladies. So what if they get past those people and they get to the actual floor? Is a teacher prepared to handle that situation? Do they have, now, like I said, that situation, that law that passed is touchy, but I'm one as an educator that's agreeing with it because I have never liked the fact that, because I have a concealed weapon permit.
Right.
I have to put my gun in. I have to put my gun in the car when I come into school.
Right.
So, that's
it's
like.
It's not in his car, y'all. Don't go look at his car. He put it somewhere else.
I put it somewhere else. Right. So, in this city that we live in, we have to be prepared. And I love my children. I love to go home to my family. So, like, if we in those situations, that's the first thing I'm thinking as a parent. Is someone in that school equipped to handle what can happen?
Friends, welcome back to another episode of the Childcare Teacher Chronicles, where we talk about all things childcare, but specifically as it relates to the teacher point of view. We're doing things a little different today, and I'm going to mix it up. We are going to be discussing crisis management, and I have none other than advocate, disciplinary, long-term, I just can't come up with all the words or accolades to give you for the roles you have played, but Mr. Charles Dillon Jr., as we talk about crisis management. Welcome to the podcast, Mr. Dillon.
Well, welcome. I'm sorry, my phone is ringing. Yeah, I'm sorry. But how you doing? It's a pleasure being here. I'm glad to be here to express and talk, advocate and talk about the great children in need in these crisis situations. But I love to be and I love what I do, and I'm glad you have me.
All right, well, give us a little bit of a background of what you've done, your roles you have played in education, specifically the early education sectors, as you have probably been in all segments of education.
Yes, I have. I have worked in education for going on 25 years this year.
25 years. Yes, congratulations.
Yes,
Thank you for that.
And I've worked with all walks of life, and that's the great thing about doing this job. I work with tier 1, 2, and 3 level kids, and inner city kids, suburban kids. This is the greatest thing about doing this job.
Tell us what's tier 1, 2, and 3 level kids.
Well, that's basically a different level of the kids, from your more challenging kids to your more advanced kids.
Okay. So you've worked with a wide variety of children on different levels of the spectrum.
Yes.
All right. Well, I have you in on today to discuss crisis management because I think this is something that's not enough light is shined on this, and the importance of teachers being prepared to handle crises and situations. But I like to start off with a question that I ask quite a few of my guests, and as it relates to our topic here, crisis management. If my director only knew, I want you to insert whatever you feel directors, leaders are missing out of. If they only knew that their teachers felt about crisis management. Can you answer, if my director only knew?
That's a big question.
That is.
But I'll tell you, if my director only knew the importance of crisis preparedness and management, because the preparedness and readiness is what we have to be hit with, right? When the situation happens, are we ready?
Right. We can't manage something we're not prepared for. Right.
Are we prepared and ready to deal with that situation?
You hitting them on their goddamn head early. You can't manage something you're not prepared for, right?
Yes.
So if our directors only knew the importance of teachers being prepared to manage crisis situations when they happen. Now, I know that people are thinking when we're talking about crisis situations, you're probably talking about, a fire in the center, or, there's a tornado coming. But there's some real deep shit that happened in schools and childcare centers where it falls under that crisis situation. Do you want to give the audience a few of the different types of crises that educators face on a daily basis?
Well, one, you're dealing with the trauma that happens at home with family members, and we stay in New Orleans, and we know they have a lot of violence in New Orleans, so that trauma is carried over to the children, and the children comes to school the next day, and that's where the social emotional learning piece kicks in there. And then you also have different situations where medicals may kick in. You have a child that may have a seizure, you have a child that may have different type of exceptionalities, and
allergies,
whatever,
and
breakouts and reactions, and how do you deal with those different things? And then, like I said, the preparedness of it. You may have a situation where you have a kid that's wheelchair bound, right?
Right.
And you have a fire drill or a real fire, and do you have a clacker for the kid to get down steps? You know, normally you used to using a ramp every day because they have the ramp for the kids, right? So what if the ramp is not? What if you can't use the ramp?
Right.
Are you
if it's blocked or hindered from you going down?
Are you prepared for
what's your plan B?
What's your backup plan B?
Right.
Like, and most places don't do that because they think let's get a handicap accessible ramp and
that's all we need.
Hey, that's all we need, and we own by it. So,
well, how many people park in front of the handicap ramp? How many people park in the handicap spot and get out and be trucking along? Right. So then those who need it is unavailable.
Yeah.
So as we talk about it, you actually hit on emergency preparedness. Let's talk about emergency preparedness. How prepared do you think not child care centers, not schools, but center staff are to handle crises?
And believe it or not, most centers and most people or most businesses are not as prepared until they have these situations and these conversations, and then they realize that they need to get up to speed to what's going on to the common. Now, everybody have the normal, like the fire drill and all of this and that.
Yeah, the policies on it
and all that is in place. Fire drill, exit route is in place, and all this and that. So that's normally in place. But like you said, to get down to the gist of it, you know, most of everyone is not prepared until they have these conversations. When they have these conversations, then they realize that they have to do some different things.
Okay. And so when we talk about emergency preparedness, specifically as it relates to early education and childhood, we talk about a plethora of things that most people don't even think that we actually do drills and simulations on, right? So in early education, when we talk about emergency preparedness, we have to do fire drills, we have to do tornado drills, we have to do hurricane drills, we have to do intruder drills, we have to do hunker down in place drills. There are so many drills that most people don't think that child care centers actually have to simulate and do with their staff. And like you said, in order to effectively manage your crisis, you have to be prepared. And the only way you can prepare is by doing what?
Being ready.
Being ready. You have to do practices. So a lot of people miss regular drills, right? And I have seen this, and I ain't gonna lie, I'm gonna talk that shit. I know some centers who be like, yeah, we marked down that we had our fire drill, but it's been a long time since we had a drill. Well, what happened when the damn fire happens in your building?
Yeah.
The reason we have these drills and the states require the schools and the different centers to do the drills is to prepare them, right? So as you said, if you are doing these drills and there's that child in that wheelchair and you come out that door and you get to that ramp and you see that wheelchair ramp is restricted, what's your plan B? Tell us how important regular drills are in managing crises and being prepared.
And that's the thing. When we having these drills, we need to get a little more in depth with our drills.
Okay.
Like at my different schools, we actually simulate the worst situation.
Oh, worse.
Instead of just going through the gist of it, having a fire drill, the baseline, we go through the gist. We actually have a simulate, have an intruder.
Right.
We have these staff trainings before school, and actually we have it when school starts.
Right.
Because you have to put the children through it as well as the adults.
Right. Say that again. I need
you to put the children
look to that camera and tell them that as well.
You have to put the staff through it and the students. It's a must. It's a given. Everyone must have the training.
Right. You could be hella prepared, but when that drill comes and it's time to actually have to go through that steps, them children going crazy because they don't know what to do.
It's natural. Right. And it's natural for adults to freak out.
Right.
When you hear gunshots or you hear an intruder in here, it's a code red or whatever your code may be. When you hear that actual thing going on, now it's anxiety.
Right.
You know, the first thing you think in my children or my family. Right. So protect myself or protect these other 30 or 20 kids I have with me.
Right.
So, you know, that's a natural. Right. That's a natural human instinct that kick in.
That's an excellent point that you bring up because you don't know how you're going to react in these situations until they come, right?
Right.
But the more you do drills and the more you prepare for whatever these crises may be, that allows you the opportunity to intelligently think about how you should react. What is the most important? What's the first step? What's first thing first? So elaborate a little bit more on when you actually have these situations occur and you as a parent, you as a human, damn the teacher, damn you got all these kids here. What's the first thought that goes through your mind and how do you regulate or what trainings have you gone through that help you regulate on what steps you should take to secure the safety of your children?
And I'm going to touch on 2 points here. The first I'm going to touch on a law that just passed will allow adults to carry weapons.
Right. Unconcealed, right?
Yes, because teachers, all right, you know there's no guns and drugs allowed in schools.
The schools, correct.
So, you know, for people who protect themselves daily and who have concealed weapon permits,
right,
they may carry and then they can't once they get to the school.
They can't,
and that's
right.
against what they stand for, right? And then, so I'm thinking sometimes, like you said, what am I thinking as a parent? Is the school normally have a resource officer, normally have a security guard, or that's one or two people? What if they get?
That's what I'm looking
What
at.
if they get past those guys?
Right.
And if is our ladies? So what if they get past those people and they get to the actual floor? Is a teacher prepared to handle that situation? Do they have, now, like I said, that situation, that law that passed is touchy, but I'm one as an educator that's agreeing with it because I have never liked the fact that, because I have a concealed weapon permit.
Right.
I have to put my gun in. I have to put my gun in the car when I come into school.
Right.
So, that's
it's
like.
not in his car, y'all. Don't go look at his car. He put it somewhere else.
I put it somewhere else. Right. So, in this city that we live in, we have to be prepared. And I love my children. I love to go home to my family. So, like, if we in those situations, that's the first thing I'm thinking as a parent. Is someone in that school equipped to handle what can happen?
Right.
So, yes, I'm all for us being able to carry weapons now, with the new law that passed, because it gives teachers in that workplace, because most people know, most criminals know that teachers don't have no weapon in them because it's against the law, right? So they know that
So that leaves teachers at a disadvantage.
At a disadvantage from the beginning, so that messes us up. Being
able to protect yourself and thinking of those in the hole.
Yeah.
Which actually brings me to my next point: access to resources. Right.
Yeah.
As we prepare teachers and equip them to handle crises and all different kind of crises, and we're going to talk a little bit more about some of these crises that you and I talked about sidebar. But how readily available is the access to resources? How important is having these access to resources?
Well, I'll say there's a lot of cities and states have it. The thing that we have to do with these centers and schools is establish relationships with those different people.
Okay.
Your local officials and your local people that you need to reach out to. Your crisis management, your where is it located? How far is it from the school? What's your distance? Because that's the relationships you can have with your parents. All right, we know that the crisis center, and they're building another one in LJS, which is awesome, a DePaul Center. So you have these different crisis, different places where you can bring the kid in the event instead of just bringing them away to Children's Hospital. So they're building these different things in different communities. So that's a great thing, and hats off to the DePaul community for reaching out for building these different centers in different neighborhoods.
Well, that speaks to the importance of them recognizing the mental health, the abundance of mental health problems that's flooding not just our city, but all cities, right? And so that brings me back to having that access. What access is available? Having centers like this, like the DePaul Health Community, does help reassure us that there are people and places that can help people with mental health. A lot of people who come into these schools and these settings and these different environments, they off their shits.
Yeah.
You can't tell me, you fucking thinking right and your mind frame is good if you come in there shooting up a damn school, right?
Right.
But as we find, there's a lot of places that doesn't put, a lot of states and a lot of cities that don't put funding into mental health and having access and things like that. So as we work on protecting our students and protecting our centers, how is that parent engagement and parent communication piece? Like, if some of your parents watching this interview right now, you saying, I feel I should be able to carry my gun in school because shit, the criminals got theirs and they coming through the school. How am I going to protect myself and your child? And them parents who like, oh, hell no. What's your conversation to them?
So with that, I'll tell parents, like, that's the fight that we have, right? That's the fight that we have. But the thing is being prepared and ready, not trying to get ready. Like, and I say, Mom, Dad, listen, I know this is a touchy situation, Grandma. I know we prefer guns to be out of school, but we done moved on past that. Laws have changed, laws have been revised, and things have changed.
Right.
People are getting a little more bolder these days.
Right.
Guns are a little more accessible.
Yeah.
So we do a little more than the old norm.
Right.
We have to increase, and we have to get up to date to what's going on. Because other than that, we're behind. And as long as we're behind, we're going to keep having situations where we're having bombings and shootings in the schools when we're not prepared, when someone could have probably prevented it.
Right.
And when you listen to most situations that didn't happen, like someone sees what's going on. Someone sees the kid, and they may end up shooting one or two people, but they can stop it right there.
Right.
Opposed to the 10, 15 people getting
down
shot.
The line. Right. Right. Absolutely. So that brings me to my next topic that I wanted to discuss, and that's coordination with external agencies. What agencies you see that's out there that really needs to be building relationships with these child care centers, with these schools? That way, in the event we do have, God forbid, these crises, specifically in the nature of what we're talking about, these intruders, what agencies you feel we need to be building better relationships with, where we are the first front and their priority when it comes to protecting our children?
I really like ACE. That's adverse child care.
Okay.
Yeah,
I know you're talking about.
And
yes.
they work wonders for kids.
Yeah, they are readily available.
Yes, and they give you the information you need. They give you the tutoring you need, and they give you the support you need to help you with any situation that a child may come with. Because, like I said, we deal with a lot of trauma in New Orleans. It just don't be about health related issues. Sometimes medical issues, medical situations that be a trauma, immediate trauma,
right?
And that affects the kids' social, emotional learning. And if we don't have that SEL and piece in place, and that's what ACE provides. They give you that help on that, and I love them. We done leaned on them a lot. And like I said, they come out, they send a behavioral health specialist, or maybe one or two. All depends on your quantity of kids, and then they will come out and they will give great support to your help, to your situation.
And so what I say is, I feel like more centers need to use their local agencies and advocate for different programs and agencies like this to be able to help them when they dealing with crisis and trauma. And this just reminds me of something that's near and dear and close to my heart. You know, I teach for an international organization. I coach for an international organization, and we have a program called Leadership Academy, right? We had one young lady, she just went through 2 cohorts of our Leadership Academy. And a little more than a week ago, I got a call from her director, her owner, who had some bad news, and that news was this young lady was tragically killed in a drive-by shooting. Wow. Wrong place, wrong time. Wow. So as we talking about different agencies who can provide support and who can provide, mentorship and just insert when such things like this happen, it reminds me of this situation. This was a leader in this child care center. The families knew her. The children knew her. She built relationships with her co-teachers and counterparts. And for, in the blink of an eye, her to be drastically killed, right? So I say that to say, and it's not just New Orleans. Like you say, we in New Orleans, it should get real down here. Like, in more than most other places, But there has to be a way that child care centers and early learning centers can advocate to build better relationships with different partnerships who can help support when there are crises, whether it's emotional support, mental health support, and sometimes it's even financial support. This was a young lady. We don't know if she had a policy. She was a young mother. A lot of our black and browns and, even our Caucasian younger people nowadays don't have things that can help sustain them or help their families in situations like this. So this is another piece when we talk about crisis management. But what I want to do is actually shift gears a little bit and talk about some of the other things that people do not realize that falls under crisis management. We've had situations where one parent come in and try to snatch a child out the school. We've had situations where, there's been a fight in the parking lot because the parents are not on one accord and they trying to,
I experienced all of those.
Right. So I want you to share a few stories with us that actually people wouldn't think fall under crisis management. Because to be honest, some of this shit just normal for, they ass cutting up again, they parents beefing again. Share some stories that can kind of help our audience see crises are in all different shapes and forms, not just the big ones we think of.
And believe it or not, the most crises happen in early childhood. It's just not publicized and talked about because the kids are so young. And the kids, so the parents will have different situations going on where they're divorcing and whatnot, or breaking up. And by the kids being so young, that's when you have that pulling and tugging, like who taking kids and they're using kids and all that. And this and that. So that's when you have your most situations that may occur. And I can tell you that I've had some experiences, without naming names, like those situations have been real. And I felt each and every one of them because I was saying, man, what if? I was in that. How would I handle this?
Right.
It always puts you out of there, puts you in the normal. Like, wow, how would I handle that just now?
So, being an educator with having so many years under your belt, what trainings do you think have better prepared you to have these conversations? Because one thing I need the audience to walk away with is we deal with real life people and real life humans every day, right? So when we're speaking of tragedies, or crises that come by way of actual adults and individuals and human beings, we don't know their temperature. We don't know their frame of mind, right? But as leaders in our centers and as leaders in our school environment, we have to be able to interject and have these conversations and communications with parents, right? Try to resolve, try to diffuse these situations. So again, maybe you could give a little light on a certain situation and then tell us what type of training you felt was beneficial towards helping you alleviate or manage this crisis.
And I love all my trusted leaders out there who all give me jobs, but they have sent me to a plethora of trainings, from CPI to CPR to epileptic training, all these different trainings. But I'm gonna tell you, these trainings are great because it gives you it wakens you up to what could possibly happen. But it's no better training that I had than on the job training.
On job training.
Like
so you
I
had
said,
to get in some shit to learn some shit about some shit.
Like all the situations I was just thinking about when you was talking about it, I was saying that was flashing through my head because I had the opportunity of working all across this city, and I have worked with all walks of life. Like I said, I have worked with all different races of children, from black, white, brown, Hispanic, Arabic kids, you know, and that was a challenge this year, working with Palestinians and these kids and Israelites, and these kids are fighting, families are fighting
losing
overseas, and they're over here want to wear these flags, and they really sit in the same classroom right here today in America.
And that could cause a crisis situation.
Crisis.
In the
school. We had to really come together and figure some stuff out.
Right.
You know, and that was really amazing to me this year, and that we was able to come together as a staff and do those things. So yeah, that's the best training I done had, on the job training. That training have worked for me the best, you know, and being in these different demographics and throughout the city. Yes, I have experienced those different situations, and it's all has been unique and it's all been real, you know. And I say this, at the end of the day, parents care, but nobody care about their children more than the parent, right? So we all say we love the children, and we do. And so when that situation happens and it comes about, when you have a passion situation that then spilled over from the house into the school, how do you handle it? What do you do? When you have legal situations where you can't do this. Whether we didn't have this parent can't be and that parent can't be, but this parent is outside ready. And them brought their lawyer and the police with them.
And you got your confidential situations.
It's terrible. So how do you address the situation when a person coming on with the police already, and their lawyer, and you like,
okay, so that brings me back to that question. Do you believe that teachers are equipped to handle these situations? You know, you can't say, "Oh, let the director handle it. Oh, let the principal handle it." If they are in a meeting or they're not on site, how do we equip our teachers to be able to effectively handle when these types of moments to keep it from turning into a whole crisis moment?
I say it again: get creative as a director, and then put your teachers and your students through these situations. You have to have the uncomfortable conversation.
So I could bust up in the center one day and say, "Give me Johnny, I'm taking Johnny with me," and I got to see what they do, right?
And even if you stage it, even if you stage it, and make it, you have to put your staff and teachers through this situation.
I'm gonna find somebody and tell them bust up in one of my centers. I'm telling you, I'm about to set their ass up. You're gonna
have everybody mad at me.
I'm about to scratch their ass and get glad. We about to do it, y'all. Better pass.
But
don't you let Johnny ass out with that stranger.
I'll tell you though, that my principals have sent me all over the country, North Carolina, Baltimore, different places doing these different trainings. And they have been phenomenal. I've learned a lot of different things, different strategies, and implementing those back into the school. But no training has been better than the on-the-job training. Because every year, like I said, I've worked in Gentilly, Uptown, Algiers, Ninth Ward. I've worked all over the city, and those places is you know, you get a different beat of person, right?
And it's funny you say that, because although we New Orleans, Algiers act different from Gentilly,
it's different
from Third Ward. Ain't no telling what you get.
Ain't no telling. Ain't no telling. You know, you're liable to get what you're gonna get.
So you gotta be flexible and versatile. As we wrap up this conversation on crisis management, I really want to talk about and highlight something that over the years I have known you. You have been able to insert yourself and be pivotal in probably keeping a bunch of crises from happening later on down the line. You are very much so engaged with the youth from way of, I can go through all of it, but you go ahead and talk about it. Tell our audience and our viewers what makes you so effective in being able to manage crises, but aside from that, help preventing them by building the type of relationships you do.
I'm a product of Algiers, the Great West Bank, as we was talking about, and I had the opportunity. I'm from the cutoff section of Algiers, you know, but I went to LB Landry. You know, and those different things. Yeah, I know it may touch a little thing with, you know, but I went to
my rivalry.
Yeah, I went to LB Landry, and being from the cutoff, I knew it was always neighborhood beef. With the people from the Fisher community and people from the cutoff community.
And that flowed into the what?
And that flowed into the schools.
Into the schools.
And it was at a high rate. It was bad. You know, and we managed to fight through that from Landry. And at Landry, you know, we always say that L at Landry is for love. You know, and then at Landry, we came together. Right. We realized, man, what we doing that for?
We ain't losing each other.
You know, so then graduating from college in 1999, I started teaching at Fisher under the great Carol Lang principal. She gave me a job, Miss Lang. Shout out to her because I tell her all the time. She started me in this education thing. But Carol Lang helped me, and she brought me out there. And when I was in Algiers in the community, she was always like a stickler for, I don't have no project kids. I don't play that.
Right.
I have community kids. We have Algiers kids. Right. And the kids not going to be labeled as the project kids. So with that being said, I went to school with a lot of kids and with a lot of the kids' parents, you know, and a lot of them went through some, you know, they had their walks of life. They was, you know, they had nothing, you know, and like I said to those parents that I'm gonna do something different. I'm gonna build a bridge. We ain't gonna have this one locked up because that one don't like that one and this and that. And I did a great job of that for 13 years. You know,
you did a great job of what?
Bringing kids from the Fisher community to the cutoff.
Okay.
And playing football for the cutoff.
Okay.
And representing the neighborhood. And not just a section. Like I'm from this section, I'm from that section. And that was big for me because we had people and families who they had wars.
Had beefs,
And I brought those children to a neighborhood where it was unfamiliar territory. And I told them, man, it's not about this or that. We're gonna build a relationship on this football field. And with that locker room, I was able to bring those kids from those different places together. And those kids became brothers. And I love that today that most of them are still friends to this day.
Absolutely.
You know, and I saw a couple of years I took away from coaching. And then the beef started back up again. And recently, most of these kids started having situations where they was killing each other. And it was about 5 or 6 of them. And that just messed me up completely because I know both sides. And it's just terrible. And so that's why that's why I do what I do.
So what's very powerful about what you said, and I try to impart this all the time when I can, but you said when you brought the children together, this parent was beefing with that parent. But when you brought the children together who don't have those impressions, who don't know no better, you were able to get them to unify, right? And that speaks to volumes about how when we catch children early, we are those who leave the mark on them. We are those who guide their trajectory in life, right? If you fit in them with, don't fuck with this one because we don't mess with them, that's how they going to act, right? And that's how they going to grow up and treat them. But if you put them in environments that's loving and conducive, and if I win, you win, and if you win, I win, then that's what they're going to learn and display as they get older. So I think it's very powerful that you said that when you bring children together, specifically when they are impressionable, they have the opportunity to do right and do well. Damn what the parent and adult
and I tell my kids and my students and everyone that it comes back to character. Because first of all, if I wouldn't have had character in high school, if I wouldn't have had character growing up, if I wouldn't be who I am, those parents wouldn't have trusted me from the beginning. Right? So before I even got to the child,
standing on business. Come on.
The teacher, the parent trusted me. And they knew what I stood for when we was in high school. I wasn't with the gang robbery stuff. And guess what? I rep the cutoff every chance I get because that's where I'm from. And that's just what it is. And when we played ball together, that was a thing when we grew up. Like I played ball with those guys from LJ's, from McClennanville and Christopher Holmes. And then when we all got to Landry, we was all at Landry. At the end of the day, so it was like for us, you know, like it's great to rep your neighborhood, but at the end of the day, we LJ's.
We are one community.
We are LJ's.
So before I wrap up, I want you to speak a little bit more about not even a newer endeavor, but you all are doing something, you by way of a tribe of yours are doing something that is incorporating the children as young as, 1 and 2 years old into you all's fold. Can you speak a little bit about that before we close out?
Well, yes, I am the flag boy for the Mohawk Hunters. World-renowned Mohawk Hunters, may I say. Yes, I am the flag boy. I've been master now since 1999 as well. And Yes, I love inspiring kids. So the one thing we do, like you said, from a little bit, we try to capture the kid mind, and we teach them about the culture. So we bring them in, we teach them about because at one point in time, everybody see Mardi Gras, and that's a great thing. They have fun, the beach, told me something, mister. But do we actually understand the true meaning behind that?
Correct.
At once upon a time, way back in the day, we wasn't allowed to participate in Mardi Gras.
We meaning who?
Meaning the Black and African American community.
African Americans, correct.
We was only allowed.
Come on, teach them.
We was only allowed to parade and mask on one day. So we paid homage to, that's where the black masking come from, because there was masking from Mardi Gras, so we black masked and paid homage to the Indians, right? So we dressed up and it became to what you see today, the elaborate costumes. But for us in our community, meaning the black community, African American community, we couldn't parade on Mardi Gras Day. We couldn't have fun. But that was a day in Louisiana where all blacks and all people were allowed to be free.
Right.
So you were allowed to walk and mingle your streets. And so you went in your community, you still didn't walk in the community where you wasn't wanted, because that just wasn't a thing.
That just wasn't a thing.
So you stayed in your neighborhood and you parading and you had fun. You went to your local bars and you barbecued and you broke out your...
And you embodied community and built that culture.
Yes.
And I wanted to make sure that you shine that in this episode as we talk about crisis management, because again, a lot of these things start from young. Preventing some crises, specifically as it relates to at the hand of humans and adults and individuals, we could prevent some of these from young. And I wanted to be sure that you all talked about the Mohawk Hunters and how you were bringing groups of children together and teaching them about culture and the importance of having each other back, and just the difference that comes along with having a place of sense of belonging.
And a responsibility. Of being a community person and carrying that torch, doing the proper things, teaching the youth that's inspired, that's looking at you, teaching the ones that don't know, the young that don't know, even the old.
Right.
Because when they see you come together as family, then they may want to say, that's something I want to be a part of.
Yes, absolutely.
When I see what they representing community, they representing family, they representing brotherhood, they support one another.
Right.
Like we do a host of things. And I give shout out to Big Chief Casby.
Yes, sir.
That's my Big Chief. He's my mentor. He was my football coach as well. So he's like a father figure to me.
Just bringing it all back full circle.
He has done a tremendous amount of things to be effective in my life.
Big
in
Chief
abundance.
Tyrone
So shout out to Big Chief for that. And he have taught me, like, for the main thing, to be family, for one, take care of your family, community, and have character at all times.
All times.
And like I said, those things help me be who I am. I could talk about all the impact I have had on the community, but I'm thankful and grateful that the community allowed me to have that impact on these kids, because I'm untraditional. I'm not traditional.
Right.
I definitely got the old school ways.
Right.
So when I'm dealing with and molding and shaping those kids, it's not probably going to be traditional.
Right.
I'm old school, and I'm,
right.
So like, I
understand. But again, that's what made it very important for me to have you bound the guest at the Childcare Teacher Chronicles podcast to talk about crisis management, because I wanted to highlight specifically those crises that childcare centers and schools encounter on the daily, as it relates to, like I say, not your big natural disaster, but those day-to-day interactions with humans and peoples in our communities.
Thank you.
I want to thank you, Mr. Charles Dillon Jr., for coming by and having this conversation with us on today. I thank my audience for tuning in to another episode of the Childcare Teacher Chronicles, where we discuss all things childcare, but specifically as it relates to the teacher. I'm going to ask you now to like, comment, and subscribe so you can get more juicy episodes. And you want to go ahead and tell them goodbye, Mr. Dillon?
Yes, and thank you again for having me. This is very, very, very needed, and I appreciate being here, sitting on this platform, elaborating and talking to you about the situation. But we need to, and I'm telling everybody again, we need to implement these strategies and learn and holler at your local officials and to establish relationships and be prepared and ready for your crisis situation.
That's right, because it's coming. I thank you, Mr. Dillon, and we will talk to you all later.
Peace.
Bye-bye.